The mansion was silent, except for the faint hum of the aquarium lights. Behind a glass wall sat Minjae Han, the only son of Korea's most feared billionaire. He didn't speak, he didn't look anyone in the eye. The world called him broken. But to Mr. Han, he was a disappointment, a heir who couldn't even say his father's name. Servants whispered that Minjae only came alive when he painted, but even that, his father saw as weakness. Outside the mansion gates, Zuri adjusted her worn-out sneakers and stared at the towering building that glittered like a palace. She had come for a janitor's job, anything to help her little sister eat. Her reflection trembled in the golden doors, but she straightened her back. Inside, as she scrubbed the hallway floors, she heard a soft sobs from behind the glass room. She peeked in and froze. A boy sat cross-legged, clutching a tiny paper bird. Tears streamed down his face silently. Zuri's heart clenched. She gently knocked on the glass. Minjae looked up, startled. His eyes met hers, full of warmth and full of fear. For the first time in years, the boy didn't look away. Upstairs, Mr. Han watched through the security feed. His jaw tightened. "Who is that girl?" he demanded. Because for the first time in 6 years, his son had finally looked at someone. The sharp tap-tap echoed through the silent hallway. Everyone who had ever worked for the Han family knew no one touched that glass ever. Zuri froze, realizing what she'd done. The boy behind the window, Minjae, lifted his head slowly, his dark eyes locking on hers. Her breath caught. For a moment, he didn't move. His fingers twitched, paint dripping from the brush onto his lap. Then, to everyone's shock, he stood. "Through the glass," she whispered, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you." But Minjae didn't look afraid anymore. He stepped closer, one hesitant foot after another, until his palm pressed against the glass right where hers had been. Zuri's eyes softened. "You like painting?" she asked quietly, pointing to the streaks of color on the canvas beside him. He nodded once, uncertainly. She smiled. "It's beautiful." Confusion and emotion flickered in his eyes. For the first time in 5 years, Minjae's lips parted. His voice came out hoarse, broken, but real. "Who are you?" Zuri gasped. From the security room upstairs, Mr. Han dropped his teacup, porcelain shattering on the floor. His mute son, who hadn't spoken since his mother's death, had just spoken to a stranger. The cleaning staffs gathered outside the hall, whispering in disbelief. And as Zuri stood trembling on the other side of the glass, she had no idea of what her single act of kindness had done. The next morning, the Han mansion buzzed with quiet panic. Word had spread fast, Minjae spoke. For years, doctors, therapists, and specialists from all over Korea had failed. Yet a young black maid, with trembling hands and kind eyes, had done what millions of one couldn't. Mr. Han ordered everyone to remain silent about it. Not a word to the press, he warned. But behind his stern tone was something no one had seen before. Meanwhile, Zuri couldn't stop replaying the moment in her mind. His voice, the way he had looked at her. She didn't understand it, but she felt drawn to him, as if his silence had reached into her own loneliness. When she entered the art room again, Minjae was already there. This time, the door was unlocked. He sat cross-legged on the floor, his brushes scattered around him, a half-painted sunrise glowing on the canvas. Without looking up, he said quietly, "You came back." Zuri froze. His words, though few, carried the warmth of a child rediscovering the world. "Yes," she smiled softly. "I said I would." Minjae looked up, his eyes brighter than before. "Everyone leaves." Her heart ached. "Not me," she whispered. From outside, Mr. Han watched through the glass, stunned. His son, once unreachable, untouchable, was now smiling. But in his chest, fear began to grow. Because if Zuri was the cure, she was also the danger that could shatter everything. That night, Zuri stayed awake long after her shift ended. She couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed not just in Minjae, but in the air around her. The mansion, once just a place of cold marble and silence, now felt alive and dangerous. At dawn, she returned to the art room to find Minjae already waiting. He held a small flower in his hand, a clumsy paper origami he'd made. "For you," he said, his voice soft but steady. Her heart melted. "It's beautiful, Minjae." Before she could say more, a deep voice thundered behind her. "Miss Zuri." Mr. Han stood at the doorway, his expression carved from stone. The warmth that had flickered in his eyes yesterday was gone, replaced by authority and something darker. He waited until Minjae was escorted out before speaking. "You've done something remarkable," he said, pacing slowly. "But don't mistake it for belonging." Zuri blinked, unsure. "Sir?" "Minjae is fragile. His condition, unpredictable. You are here to work, not to get attached." His words sliced through her chest like ice. "I understand, sir," she whispered. But as she turned to leave, he added coldly, "If anything happens to my son because of you, I won't hesitate to end your employment, or worse." Zuri left the room trembling. Behind the glass, Minjae pressed his palm against the window, watching her go, unaware that his father had just declared war on the only person who'd ever reached him. The next morning, the mansion buzzed with tension. Mr. Han's voice had echoed through the halls earlier, furious over something the staff couldn't even whisper about. But Zuri knew. She could still feel the weight of his warning from the night before, pressing on her chest. When she entered the garden to water the lilies, a small hand tugged at her skirt. It was Minjae, barefoot, his hair a mess, eyes wide with worry. "Why didn't you come back yesterday?" he asked softly. "Did I do something wrong?" Zuri knelt, brushing his cheek gently. "No, sweet boy, you didn't do anything wrong. I just needed to rest." He frowned, his lips trembling. "Appa said I shouldn't see you anymore." Her heart cracked. "It's okay, Minjae. You must listen to your father." But before she could stand, Minjae gripped her hands tightly. "I don't want to. You're the only one who talks to me like I'm not broken." His voice broke into a sob. "You promised to help me draw the sun again." Tears welled in Zuri's eyes. "And I will," she whispered. "No one can take that from us." Unbeknownst to them, Mr. Han stood at the balcony above, watching, jaw tight, fists clenched. His heart warred between fear for his son and the unsettling truth. Minjae had never spoken this clearly, this passionately, to anyone else before. For the first time, Mr. Han wasn't sure if Zuri was a danger or the miracle his son had been waiting for. Mr. Han couldn't sleep that night. Minjae's words kept echoing in his head. "You're the only one who talks to me like I'm not broken." He had spent years paying for the best doctors, therapies, and schools, yet not one of them had reached his son the way that young black woman did. At 2 a.m., he called his assistant. "Find everything you can about Zuri Adebayo," he ordered coldly. By morning, a thick brown envelope sat on his desk. Inside were old records, immigration files, and a photograph that made his breath hitch. Zuri, much younger, standing beside a smiling Korean woman, his late wife's sister, Dr. Han Yura. His hands trembled. Why didn't anyone tell me this? Meanwhile, Zuri sat by the lake behind the mansion, her reflection trembling in the water. She remembered that woman, the only person who had ever believed in her dreams. Yura had promised to help her study child psychology before her tragic death. As she stared into the distance, Minjae appeared behind her, clutching his sketchbook. He drew a small sun, then wrote "Zuri plus me equals happy" under it. Zuri's tears spilled freely. She didn't know what tomorrow held, but one thing was clear: she wasn't just a maid anymore. She had become the light in a home filled with shadows. The next morning, tension hung in the air like an invisible storm. Mr. Han waited in the study, the brown envelope resting on his desk. When Zuri entered with her usual gentle smile, His face was unreadable. "Sit down," he said sharply. Her hands trembled as she obeyed. She'd never seen him this way, his calm replaced by a cold, piercing stare. "Who are you really, Zuri Adebayo?" he demanded, sliding the envelope toward her. "Why didn't you tell me you knew my late wife's sister?" Her eyes widened as she looked at the photograph, her younger self, beside Dr. Han Yura. Her throat tightened. "I didn't think it mattered," she whispered. "She helped me once when I was lost. She believed in me." Mr. Han's voice softened slightly, but suspicion lingered. "You knew my son's condition before you came here. Don't pretend this was coincidence." Tears filled Zuri's eyes. "I didn't come here for money or status. I came because I saw a boy who needed love, the same love Dr. Yura gave me." Before Mr. Han could reply, the study door burst open. Minjae stood there, clutching his drawing, a picture of himself holding hands with Zuri and his father. "Appa, don't shout at Zuri," he cried. "She's my friend." Mr. Han froze, the boy's rare burst of emotion hitting him hard. For the first time, he saw something he had never seen in Minjae before: fear of losing someone he loved. The next morning, the whole city buzzed the news. It started with a headline: "Black nanny manipulates billionaire family. Sources say she's after his fortune." By noon, every major Korean news outlet had picked it up. Paparazzi swarmed the Han estate gates, flashing cameras and shouting questions. Zuri's phone buzzed endlessly, hateful messages, wild accusations, and cruel memes flooded her feed. Inside the mansion, chaos reigned. Mrs. Han, Mr. Han's mother, stormed into the living room with fury in her voice. "I told you, I warned you she'd ruin our name," she shouted, pointing a trembling finger at Zuri. Zuri stood silent, eyes glistening but chin raised. "I didn't do this," she whispered. Mr. Han's face was unreadable. "Then explain why someone found pictures of you outside Minjae's therapy clinic 6 months before you were hired." I used to volunteer there," she stammered. "I didn't even know Minjae then." But no one seemed to believe her. Even the household staff avoided her gaze. Minjae, confused and frightened, clung to her hand. "Zuri's not bad," he cried, but his voice was drowned by the shouting. Mr. Han finally spoke, his tone heavy. "Until this is sorted out, you can't stay here. The board is already asking questions." Zuri's heart shattered as she knelt before Minjae. "Be brave for me, okay?" she whispered, tears streaking her cheeks. As she stepped out through the front gates, flashes blinded her cameras, capturing every tear, every step. But deep inside, Zuri knew one thing: someone was behind this, and she'd find out who. Zuri spent the night in a tiny apartment, the silence broken only by the buzz of her old phone. She scrolled through the hate comments with trembling fingers, each one cutting deeper than the last. "Gold digger! Liar! Black witch!" But then a message popped up from an unknown number. "If you want to know who framed you, come to Han Medical Center. Midnight. Don't tell anyone." Her pulse raced. She hesitated, then slipped on her hoodie and left. At the hospital's archive room, the flicker of fluorescent light revealed a familiar face: Mr. Han's sister and Minjae's doctor, Imani. "Why am I here?" Zuri demanded. Imani sighed, holding out a manila folder. "Because I owe you the truth. Minjae's therapy records, the ones that were leaked to the media, someone altered them." Zuri flipped through the papers. Her jaw dropped. Her name had been inserted into documents she'd never signed. Who did this? Imani's eyes hardened. "My mother. She hired a PR firm to destroy your reputation so you'd be forced to leave. She believed you were distracting Minjae from recovery." Zuri's heart ached. "And what about Mr. Han? He believed it too." "Not anymore," Imani said softly. "He's been digging for the truth since the article broke." Suddenly, Zuri heard footsteps echoing in the hallway. The door creaked open. "Zuri!" came a low, familiar voice. It was Mr. Han, and behind him were two reporters holding microphones. Zuri froze, her breath caught in her throat. The flash of cameras filled the room, blinding her. Mr. Han lifted a hand, motioning the reporters to wait. "I asked them here," he said, voice steady but raw, "because the world needs to know what really happened." Zuri's eyes glistened. "Why now?" He stepped closer, his expression softening. "Because I was a coward. I let fear and pride blind me, when you were the only one who truly saw my son." He turned to the cameras. "Zuri didn't exploit my family. She saved it. Every moment my son smiled, every word he learned, it was because of her." The reporters exchanged glances, lowering their microphones. Mr. Han continued, pulling out the altered files. "These documents were forged to destroy her, but the truth is right here." Zuri's tears fell freely now. Minjae appeared from behind his father, clutching a small toy. "Zuri, come home?" he whispered. Her resolve broke. She knelt, hugging him tightly. The cameras clicked again, but this time, not in scandal, but in redemption. Outside the hospital, the morning sun broke through the clouds. Mr. Han reached for her hand. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," he murmured. Zuri smiled faintly. "Then start by earning it." He nodded, eyes glistening. "Together?" "Yes, together," Zuri said. And as Minjae's laughter echoed down the hallway, the world finally saw what love, true, healing love, really looked like. The moral lesson of this story is that love and compassion can reach where wealth, fame, or status never will. Sometimes, the person society looks down on is the one who holds the purest heart. True strength isn't about perfection, it's about seeing beauty in someone's brokenness and helping them find light again.